Welcome to the Coda Podcast. I am Rue from Rue Films, and today I'll be speaking with Stefan from Lincolnshire Videography. Stefan has cracked the code for Instagram success, with over 97,000 followers and incredible engagement on all of his posts. Many of his reels have racked up over 1 million views. In this chat, we talk through his approach to creating viral content and how he is then able to convert that engagement into actual clients. So good evening, Steph. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
Very well, thanks, man. So we are at the minute at the start of September, so the back end of the wedding season. And how is the season? How has it shaped up for you? How's your 2024 been?
Yeah, really good. I'm in a much nicer place editing-wise than previous years. I think mainly because we've limited how many weddings we've taken on this year, particularly. I think after COVID and things getting postponed, obviously 2021 and 2022 were quite busy years. So we sort of said to ourselves, well, we need to really make a decision here because we've got a commercial business as well. And we do quite a lot of commercial work. So we manage social media channels for restaurants and attractions around our local area. And we also make all the content for them. So we had to sort of say, right, okay, what's the sensible number? And we sort of landed on about 25. So we're in a good place, editing wise, definitely better than previous years.
And the commercial work you're doing, is that kind of like regular? Is that regular clients that need regular needs to be met?
Yeah, 100%. So like I say, we're looking after about 14 or 15 businesses at the moment, looking after their content creation, photography, videography, and also looking after their social media accounts as well. So yeah, that keeps us fairly busy as well. So weddings is used to be, I'd say probably 3 years ago, weddings used to be our full-time sort of gig, but now it's sort of, the commercials caught up with it, and it's sort of 50-50 now. So yeah, 25 for me is a great number, and it's something. It allows me to maintain a high quality, but also do the commercial side as well. So we're not overdoing it, if that makes sense.
Was that a considered move to have more corporate work to kind of make it 50-50, so you've not all got your eggs in one basket in terms of weddings? Yeah,
I suppose we've always done the commercial stuff as well as weddings, but I would say that weddings used to be the main sort of source of income, really, and specifically around the COVID time, them scales sort of shifted a little bit, and we started to do more of the commercial stuff as weddings sort of took a bit of a break during that 2020 period. And yeah, I don't think it was really a conscious thing, although I'm always thinking subliminarily, like, I don't want to be out every weekend filming weddings. I absolutely love filming weddings, and I love my job, and I find I think myself very, very lucky that I get to do this job. But at the same time, I have got a young family as well, and so it's trying to balance that and just make sure that we're not out 2 or 3 days of the weekend, and we're not sort of balancing that scale out. So yeah, it's always a balancing act. But was it intentional? Not really, but yes, if that's an answer.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It starts to happen, and you think, actually, this is a good shout if I move this way.
Yeah,
if the commercial work comes in. Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to, this is not something that I'd planned to talk about, but I am generally quite interested in kind of commercial side of things. So how would that work in terms of your clients? Do they book you? Have they got a certain amount of hours that you have to go in and film each day or something like that that's assigned to them? Is that how it works?
It really depends. We've got some clients that just have a one-off job that they book us for. It may be just going and doing a business overview, or they might have a new attraction opened and we just go and make a film about it. Or it may be, some of our clients, I would say 90% of our clients are on retainer. So they pay us a monthly amount, and then we agree a set amount of shoots per year. We go in, we film, photo. If you take a restaurant, for example, we'll go in, we'll film and photograph the whole menu. We'll also make them a load of reels and stuff that they can use for socials. But we're sort of a one-stop shop, specifically in our area, for all in one. So we'll go there, we'll photograph it, we'll film it, we'll do all of their social media, their ad campaigns, we'll do just pretty much everything for them. We'll look after their Google reviews, we'll make sure that there's stories and content going out content 3 times a week and stories every day. Basically that's what we do on the commercial side, and that's going really well. And there's a real big demand for that at the moment. Especially, I think people are clicking on to, historically, without going off on a tangent, you would make one video and that would sit there and get lots of attention. If it's a big business, it would go on TV. If it's a smaller business, it would go, here and there. But content's getting consumed so quickly now. You have to keep in front of the customer and keep going, especially with restaurants, for example. If you're seeing a restaurant keep popping up on your feed every day and you decide on Wednesday where you're going out for dinner on Friday night, chances are, because you've been seeing that content keep popping up, it hopefully will sway you to go in there as well as them providing a good service, I suppose.
Yeah, I can imagine it's absolutely massive, and we hold a lot of power, don't we, as filmmakers, especially now, because film is king in terms of content, isn't it? That's what everybody wants. So we have such a incredible skill set, especially with coming through weddings where we can produce content quickly and at live events under pressure and turn around quickly. That skill set would be like priceless, really, for companies to create content for them.
100%, yeah, 100%. And there's a real, like I say, there's a real demand for it. So yeah, it's just balancing the scales. I would definitely say that weddings is where it's definitely where I started and where my love for filmmaking began. And I don't think I'd ever want to turn my back on it completely. But yeah, I think 25 per year is a really nice number that I'm happy with, really.
Yeah, and it gives you a little bit more freedom in the edits to kind of express yourself a little bit, I guess, rather than those years when you're doing 40 and 50, that you just got to get those weddings out the door, haven't you? But hitting those 20s, you can spend a little bit more time in the edit if you need to.
And that's always been a real something that I've stood by from the very beginning, is to try and make the best film that I can physically make. And to do that takes time, as you will know. Like, you can't just make something that really resonates with the couple and that they find amazing and immersive and all of the wonderful words that we use, cinematic, dare I say it, by just bashing weddings out. From the very beginning, I sort of always wanted to make sure that we're trying to maintain a high standard, but that's definitely easier to do with a lower number of weddings, really.
How big is your team then at the moment? Do you have 2 separate teams, one for commercial, one for weddings, or is it the same team?
Yeah, so I use second shooters, obviously, for weddings. So in terms of, I don't have anybody employed in like the wedding side to do anything permanently, but we have a couple of second shooters in the wedding side, and then there's myself, my wife in the commercial side, and then the second shooters as well, as we need help with the shooting.
So you've got like a pool of shooters that you call upon as and when, and do they have their own businesses as well? So based on availability.
Yeah, so until now I've mainly been doing all the shooting, but it is starting to grow beyond just the capability of me being able to shoot things now. So as we get more clients, certainly on the commercial side, it's growing a little bit more than I can shoot, if that makes sense. So definitely we'll be calling upon more friends in the industry to help out with that sort of stuff. And I think as well, knowing videographers and photographers in the industry, sort of from anywhere from November through to April, May, is a really dead period for many of those creative people. And the chance to go out and film something a bit fresh, like a restaurant, for example, or a little mini documentary for a local security company or something like that, a lot of creatives would quite like to do that as well, especially in those winter months. Maybe not straight after wedding season, but definitely there's people that would want to do that.
Is there any downsides to the commercial? From my dabble into commercial, the one thing I did find is I seem to be constantly chasing invoices for a start, because whereas with weddings we're in a lucky position where we often get paid before we've even done the work, and with commercial it's quite often after you've done the work. I know you're on retainer for some, and the other thing I found is quite often it's almost like they need to have an input on the video in terms of what changes to be made, just so they feel they've had some kind of influence on it? Do you find that?
No, 100%. I've definitely been there, and it all depends on the client really as well. Revisions, when it comes to revisions, it's all about communication at the very beginning. It's all about letting them know, like, this is how many revisions you'll get. You'll get 2 free, and then if there's anything past that, then obviously it's chargeable. But when it comes to retainers, they're all on direct debit, so they don't even have to think about it. It's like, look, this is what we do. It works. I mean, we've generated, looking at one of the businesses earlier today, we've generated millions and millions of views, and I think about 10,000 followers in the last couple of months for the local pleasure beach up in, because I'm based in Skegness, which is a seaside town. So we do all the content for the pleasure beach, for example. So they're really happy with that. We're getting them into the 21st century when it comes to creating them, videos to be shared online, and that's going really well. So yeah, in terms of your question about chasing invoices, I don't really have any trouble with that at the moment, but I have in the past. I do know what you mean. When you work for certainly bigger companies, bigger corporations, they're always like 30, 60 days on an invoice, and you're like, man, I delivered the film so long ago. Like, pay me, please.
Exactly, yeah.
But
just spoiled from weddings, though. That's the only thing. I thought 30 days isn't even that bad, but when I'm so used to having it 30 days before I've actually filmed it, it just felt a bit of it was getting that cash flow situation. So, Steph, so in terms of, just for if you can give us an example, as a company on that some retainer that you're doing work for most weeks, how much would you be kind of charging them?
Yeah, so it varies from business to business. Some of our clients have got multiple businesses that we have to go and film, and others have just got a singular business. But anywhere from £1,000 a month up to £2,500 a month. And generally, it would just depend on how much content throughout the year. Generally, if you were somewhere in the middle around the £1,500 a month, it'd be sort of a shoot per quarter. And then that would be, tens of pieces of content from that shoot, at least 3 posts per week on the social media channels, up to 2 channels, and just generally, anything they need. It's not sort of I don't have the approach of you put £1 in the meter and you get another video. It's sort of if I get a text message on a Friday night, we've decided to put this event on Saturday, I'll jump in the office and I'll bang out a post for them, or I'll quickly edit together a bit of content. And I think they like that, having that somebody almost on call, just to be able to say, we need this, can you do it? And especially for the medium-sized businesses, which is like 1 to 5 businesses in that group, they're sort of small enough where they haven't got an in-house person hired to do it, but big enough to be able to afford that budget per month, if that makes sense. So it's still early days with that, and we're certainly not conquering the world with it. But it's a good business at the moment. Especially, we're sort of keeping it local, and as time goes on, we'll branch that out and sort of see where it goes with that. But it's all good at the moment.
It's great. I know I keep banging on about it, but it's super interesting. I mean, it wasn't even on the schedule what we were going to chat about.
It's fine,
I'm very interested in this kind of this model, because I think it's something that everyone can kind of tap into a certain extent.
100%.
So just before we get on to weddings, if I can ask you a little bit more about it. The initial commercial clients, how did you get them on board? Did they find you, or did you go hunting for them?
To be quite honest, it's been word of mouth. For the commercial side, so it has been a lot of, it started off when I started doing the commercial stuff as a side hustle to weddings, and I would do, for example, with a restaurant, I would do them an overview video, so like a 2 to 3 minute video for their website, and I'd do that every year or two, and then it just got to a certain point, and I was like, okay, well, rather than doing one video every 2 years, why don't we discuss the idea of a retainer package where we just look after everything for you. Your social media is always looking good, and you just pay us a monthly amount that suits you. And a little bit like weddings, we just try and find what the client's budget is and what they would like, and then just work out a deal. So in terms of the demand for it and things, it seems to be good.
Brilliant and amazing, mate. Yeah, it's given me so many ideas. Just already thinking of local businesses being able to tap in. The being on a retainer is the key thing. So that will keep you ticking over during these quiet months.
It's definitely that. That is the key thing. Like, in weddings, your bulk of your income comes in the summer. You think, whoa, I'm rich. I'm going to buy a new lens. I'm going to buy a new camera. I'm going to get a new laptop. And then all of a sudden it comes to November. You're like, maybe I should have saved some. We all do it. We all do it.
Yeah.
So that's.
I mean, we're in September now, and it's kind of, I'm at the point of my edit queue is the biggest it's been all year, and it's only I've got a few more weddings still to shoot, but I've only got like 2 or 3 invoices left to send out for the entire year, and it's thinking, so the money I've got now is what I've got to last us until the season kicks off again, really. So it's looking at ways to be able to keep a consistent flow, isn't it? Of money coming in, or at least make sure you're saving as you go.
Somebody once said, it was a really good quote, and I can't remember exactly where it came from, but it was one of the business podcasts that I listened to, and it was, never rely on more than 10% of your income coming from one place. So try and have different things coming in at different times through the year, whether that be, I think it was relating to a member of staff actually. It's like, never let a member of staff do more than 10% of the business's work, because then you're reliant on that one person. But it's the same with weddings. Like, we're reliant on that in the summer, and then obviously there's obviously a full 12 months, and it just depends how good you are at managing those 12 months. But if you're anything like me, I love to book a holiday, and I love a new camera and I love a new lens, and just like everybody else, I guess. But the commercial side definitely helps just balance that out through the winter months as well as through the summer as well.
Yeah, it's a great shout and a great thing for people to look into to kind of just supplement what they're earning already and keep it ticking over.
And I think as well, like,
I need to get into weddings, don't know. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think as well, like, when I walk in the office and I see the cameras sat down there, I'm like, they're not earning money right now. They're sat down there doing nothing. And especially in the winter months where it's like months of not earning money. I'm like, it's not all about money, of course, but still, there should be bits and pieces going on throughout the year as well, not just all at once.
Exactly. And how long are people going to want us at weddings? Like, I'd want to do it until the day I die, I think, but I don't know how long a 25-year-old bride is going to want a 70-year-old man following around with a camera on a wedding day. So I'm always looking for other options.
You'll send in about 10 years, you'll send your AI robot and it'll go and do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We're all just having weddings via Zoom by then anyway, or ChatGPT or something. Exactly. Everyone's actually marrying their AI assistant. So you mentioned earlier that you use second shooters. Are you using a second shooter for every wedding, or do you shoot solo as well?
Yeah, so from the majority of weddings, we have 2 of us, myself and Steve. Steve's been with me for, I'd say, 6 or 7 years. So he has his own business where he shoots photos. He does about 10 of those a year. And he also does a few other bits. He's a singer as well. So he's the kind of person that really likes to do a little bit of everything. He gets bored just doing one thing, but he's a very valued member of the team. He's somebody that's been with me for, like I say, about 5 or 6 years now, probably longer. He's probably going to kick me when he sees this and says, 6 years, it's 7.5. But yeah, in terms of using second shooter, it's mainly always Steve, and if not, it'll be somebody else trusted in the industry.
So do you and Steve, when you're working together, do you both have like defined roles that you always take? Like, for example, are you the one that's always at bridal prep, or does it work in that kind of way?
Not always, no. I think because we've worked together so long now, Steve shoots very, very similarly, if not the same as me. So I fully trust him if he was to go to bride prep and I was to go to groom prep one day. Some days we do mix it up. There's no real set roles. We mix it up on occasion. And Steve's even first shot weddings for me as well. So I'm more than confident to send him to a wedding on his own and he'll capture it perfectly, exactly. He's been with me for that long that he knows exactly what he's doing. So that's always good. So
it's basically like having 2 prime shooters on a day, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Do you mix it up in terms of focal lengths? Like if one of you's on a certain focal length, does someone take a different role in terms of that? Yeah, generally speaking, yeah. So I'll generally sort of shoot a bit of a tighter shot focal length. So I favour like an 85 and a 50,
Steve will shoot a 50mm most of the day, but then if we are out on a couple shoot and there's a really nice landscape shot, he'll pop a 24 on and get those landscape shots as well, and sometimes jump on the drone. So I'll always take that sort of a cam approach, and then he'll, back that up with something nice of like a landscape shot or an alternate angle from a bit of a different focal length.
Because that's one thing I do notice in your work is multiple angles of a certain moment. And I'm not talking just A-roll, not just speeches and ceremony. You have a lot of that anyway, but there'll be like a moment with B-roll where you've got like a wide shot and then you gave a tight. But obviously that's with the two of you working together and working in tandem, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, generally, yeah. If we're not in the same place at the same time, so for example, preps, we can't do that. But sometimes, yourself, if you're in a hotel, for example, and the bride and groom is both getting ready there, then sometimes there's not a lot happening with the bride. We'll both go across to the groom, and if there's a card opening or something, we'll both film it from different angle, like maybe one over his shoulder and then one sort of front angle. So where we can, we do multicam. Sometimes for confetti on the way out, we favour that behind shot out of the church door, for example. That's always nice.
Yeah.
Where we can, we multicam, and we mix that focal length up, and we'll chuck the drone up where we can as well. But for me, as much as we multicam and as much as we do all those things, for me it's always documentary first. So it's capturing the moment first, and then if you can add to that afterwards, then great. We're not going to miss a shot for the sake of putting the drone up, if that makes sense. If it's feasible to do it, we'll do it. If it's not, then we'll leave it.
Yeah. So you're making sure you got your bases covered, and then it's a case of, we've got a little bit of time here. Perhaps we can get a second angle, like confetti's. I've got a couple of minutes for confetti. Maybe get the drone up above it, things like that.
Exactly. Yeah. Like there's 150 guests pouring out of the church, and there's only 10 out so far. Yeah, we've got time to put the drone up. But on the other hand, if you've got 60 guests and they're all stood there and the bride and groom are about to come out, then obviously, we wouldn't do. But yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it?
So what cameras are you using at the moment?
So we use Canon. We use the Canon C70s.
Right.
I don't know if you know the Canons at all.
Yeah. So the C70s, so they're a kind of, what is it, like Super 35? Is that what it is? Is that what the sensor is?
Yes, and then we have an adapter on that brings it, so it brings it back into full frame. Basically, it's like a focal reducer. So it makes it sort of decompresses the image, and I don't know what it does. It does some kind of, I'm not technical at all, but it does some kind of witchcraft through the glass, and then it reduces it back to looking like a full frame. It does mean if you put an 85 on that it reduces it down a little bit to like a 70 or a 75, but it still does look really nice.
Okay, and am I right in thinking they don't have IBIS?
They don't. No, they don't. So we're monopod people. We've gone from being on a tripod to using a tripod as a monopod to now getting these monopods that are just quick adjustable, and yeah, it seems to be working really well at the moment with the monopod. What I would say is I would love IBIS in a Canon camera. It would be great. It would be great I look at these people that are shooting minimal handheld all day, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. But for me, it again, coming back to the balancing thing, for me, I shoot at 25 frames all day, except from confetti and couple shots. So IBIS would be wonderful. Because we haven't got IBIS, we're using the monopods, and it just means you have to lock your arms in and probably have the monopod arm just pushing into your body a little bit, and just you get used to it. But I don't mind the footage being a little bit shaky, because that's absolutely fine as well, as long as it's not absolutely crazy. But I'm a little bit anal when it comes to settings. I was watching a couple of podcasts, and one of the guys on there was saying like bumping the shutter and things. And I just can't bring myself to do it. And
You're
I'm sure,
purist.
No, but I'm sure it's fine, and it obviously is fine. But my body will not let me do it. It just won't let me. So yeah, I'm a little bit of a stickler for that, and I love the inbuilt ND filters. I'm an ND filter person. 25 frames all day, except from couple shots and confetti, and the odd time in like the portraits and things. But
So is Steve, when he's shooting for you, is he basically working in the same? Is he using the C70 as well?
Yeah, so we've got two C70s, we've got two R5s and an R6.
And if you have to get a second shooter in, that's not Steve, like bring someone else in. Do they use your kit?
Yeah, generally.
Yeah. And how come you landed on the C70? Were you just in the Canon ecosystem before that, and it just naturally moved over?
Yeah. So when I started out, I had the Canon 5D Mark. No, I can't remember what it was. I'm sure it was a 5D Mark II. And I've always loved Canon. But then in about 2019-20, I switched to Sony because of at the time it was because the focusing was so good. The eye focus was fantastic, and also the stabilization was really fantastic. And obviously it's a smaller camera, it's more lightweight, the lenses are lighter, and I just thought, you know what, I want to do that. Let's have a go. And I had a Canon A7 III for about 6 months, and I just couldn't get on with it. I loved it for the first couple of months, and then I just found, and it's probably my fault. I mean, there's probably ways of making the footage look nicer and things, but for me, it just wasn't the same as the Canon. It's weird, isn't it? Like when we talk about cameras, it's what fits. It's like wearing a glove, isn't it? Like I think it's a bit like on Harry Potter, you know, where the sorting hat selects you. It's like you just have a camera, and it just feels right. And I can't really explain it other than that, really. But when the C70s came out, they had fantastic eye focus, which is stupid, really, because we manual focus most of the time anyway. But in bright sunlight, when you can't really see the screens very well, you know, having that eye focus turning green, it does help. But yeah, no IBIS is a bit of a pain sometimes, but we just work with it.
That's blowing my mind. So when you said in terms of your monopod, are you using maybe like the iFootage one, that kind of like...
I can't pronounce it. Siru? The new one. It's like a grey thing. You twist it and it pops up.
I don't know how to pronounce it either. Is it Siru or Siru? Yeah. So is that the new quick adjustable one that they've released, where you like press the button and it kind of slides up and down?
And it's really good, to be fair, because you can take the bottom off and you can have it really low to the ground as well, as like a mini tripod low to the ground. So yeah, it's working really well. We've both got one of those.
Oh, nice. My friend Craig McKenna from Gingerbread Productions would be happy to hear this. I know he listens to the podcast, and I thought he was the only C70 shooter in the wedding industry, but we found another one.
Yeah, I've chatted to Craig before, to be fair, and we've said about being on C70s. He loves it just as much as I do. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just having that, for me, again, when I had the Sony, without going off too much of a tangent, when I had the Sony, and again, shooting with the ND filters and having to screw ND filters on, and then when you go indoors, you take it off, and then you've got the whole, you know, the ends of the lenses are not all the same, are they? So then you need adapters, and the ND doesn't fit on that one, but you have to put that adapter on, and for me, it was just slowing me down, and so I just had to, go back to the Canons.
Internal NDs would be an absolute dream.
But mate, honestly, I look at these people that are shooting handheld all day, and I'm like, I wish I could do that. That must be so freeing. Like, just being able to wander around.
That was I couldn't get on with a monopod. Like, really? I had to, because I was a photographer originally, to then suddenly have to walk around with a stick attached. I couldn't do it. So that's when I went handheld and just learnt ways of keeping it stable. But these days, with the active stabilization on my Sony, it's just I'm more stable handheld than I was with a monopod, because I was always adjusting my monopod up and down.
It is amazing though, isn't it? It is amazing how stable you can keep it, even if it hasn't got the inbuilt stabilization. Like we go handheld for the dancing shots with the C70s with no stabilization on like 50s and 85s, and I know obviously with the dancing shots you're able to create a bit more movement, and I quite like that in the films as well. It's it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? So you get ND filters in that, but no IBIS, and then you'll get an A7 III S3, and you have no ND filters, but you've got IBIS, and it's just preference, and you never win. You've always got to have some
someone
attachment.
Just made a perfect camera for us. They've got to just make this perfect camera.
No one would ever buy any of the other models, though, would they?
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. Cool. So audio equipment. Just quickly step into that. What are you using to capture your audio?
Generally TX650s, but I am...
Yes.
Yeah, I'm generally, just because they're quick and easy, but they do have their downfalls, obviously. They do, if you've got a silk robe like the Vicar or something, sometimes they slip off, and the Vicar's had to pick it up and put it back on before. Generally, though, 9 times out of 10, they're absolutely perfect for what we do. But the lavaliers, we used to run lavs, and we'd put a lav on and put the thing in the pocket and wire it and make sure it was all tucked in. But then the TX650s came on the scene and was like, oh, we'll just give that a try. And obviously the quality is fairly good. So we, generally speaking, we'll have the TX650s, and then we'll have we'll also like mic up the lectern in the church and things like that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're using lavs at all anymore? Or is it all just mainly the TXs?
We do have a lav. Yeah, we have two or three lavs, and we have them with the windbreakers on, because if it's an outdoor ceremony, and we had a wedding in Rome last year, and it was really, really windy up in this vineyard, and we put the wind muffler on with the lav, and that took the wind noise straight away out. Whereas the TX650s, if the wind passes by them, it's a bit of a pain. So yeah, brutal. We do have lavs, but we generally, where we can, we'll use the TX650s, and then the lavs, if it's windy.
What are your lavs running into? Is it like the Tascam? Is it, or
the Zoom H1s? I think they are.
Oh, old school, mate.
Yeah.
The big handheld.
Yeah.
I haven't seen one of them in a few years.
Yeah, to be fair, that's what we use for the outdoor stuff. But I'm looking at the float audio as well, so maybe upgrading those soon.
I mean, that it was the DR10L that I've got. The new version, the Pro, is 32-bit float of that, and that looks quite tasty. I've got one eye on that, I've got to admit.
Yeah,
but I've had a few weddings recently where grooms don't want the TX650 on show, so I've been using the lav and hiding it. So
they are ugly, aren't they? The TX650s. You said it the other day on one of your podcasts. It was like they look like a vape or something. I was like, you hit the nail on the head.
I can't get past that. I really can't. It makes me cringe every time I see it.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. A quick question for you here. Favorite wedding filmmaker? Do you have one?
That's a good question, and I'm gonna say no. Controversial, I know, but I don't have one. I have many. And it's a difficult one, because when I started out, I would always be looking at other filmmakers and I'd be thinking, oh, what are they doing, and should I buy that kit? And you get yourself into this sort of frenzy, years ago, of looking at everything and trying to compare yourself. And I stopped doing that, but I am able to see a wedding film and be like, oh, that's really nice, and appreciate it. So no, I don't have one favourite. I just I'll see parts of certain people's films and I'm like, that's awesome. And then I'll see parts of other people's and think that's awesome. And so, yeah, not one in particular, no. What about you?
So I'm the same. I've got loads that I absolutely adore. So Sharon Calafiore from Fiore Films, just absolute masterpieces, her work, like the sound production on it and the visuals. If me and my wife say, if we were getting married again and we would have the Lawsons as our videographers.
They're awesome. Yeah, I've seen those. I think
they're very much, because I think when you're picking your videographer as well, it's not just the work you love, it's the kind of like the people they are, and I love the kind of vibe that they get in their films. And I think our wedding day we want it to be all about our friends and family and the fun, and I think that's something they capture quite well. So
awesome.
Yeah. Who would you pick if you were are you married, Steph?
I am married. Yeah, I'm married. We got married in 2013, so a long time ago.
Did you have a videographer?
Yeah, we did, and it's actually funny. Actually, this is why I do this job. So back in 2013, like many couples, we were planning our wedding, and my wife came to me. I always tell this story on calls with couples because I know that this exact same thing is happening right before our eyes. So we were planning a wedding. I weren't bothered about a videographer, mainly cost-based, being completely honest. We'd spent a fortune already. I weren't bothered. I didn't see the value in it. But my wife did, and she, got her own way, and we got a videographer, and it was the best money we spent, because when we were on our honeymoon and we forgot all about the wedding day, we received a highlight film, and it was just awesome. It was awesome to relive the day, and I was always into photography before that, and from that moment on, it just really made me fall in love with the power of film and being able to capture those emotions and things that we didn't see. So I came back from honeymoon and started, filming. I was actually working at the time. I had a full-time job at the time, and I would just make like little promotional videos or little messing about videos, and I'd start editing them. And within about a year, I was getting questions like, "Oh, would you film this wedding? And would you help us with this filming?" And it just sort of grew from there. In 2013, really, and then in 2016, I went full time and become full time in the business, basically filming weddings as a full time career.
When you decided to make the jump into full time, had you got like a set number of amount of weddings that were in the bag, or is it just a case of I just need to take the leap now? I've got a passion for it.
Yeah, so I think at the time I probably only had about 6 or 7 weddings booked in for the following year, but I had shot 6 or 7 that year, and I'd got them to edit, and it was sort of a case of, I was in sales at the time, and I was thinking to myself, well, I'm spending all this time selling for these people. What would happen if I was selling myself and what I can do to people, and filling my diary up and having my own freedom to be able to work the hours that I want to work and say yes to the jobs that I want to say yes to? So I was in 2016, it was just a case of I'd had a bit of a disagreement with the employer anyway, and so it came to like a bit of a crossroads. Like, am I going to, stick it out, or am I going to, move on? And I think it was my wife said it at the time. She just said, "Look, just quit. Like, give it a go. Like, if you don't give it a go, you'll never know." And I did, and I gave up, and I said, "There's your." Not your P45, your notice, should I say. There's your notice. I'm not coming back. And I just started putting out clips, and and it just went from there.
So your first few weddings, were they just kind of people that knew you? Was it word of mouth that you were getting them from, or were there other tactics that you put out?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the first wedding that I ever did, I put out like a competition on Facebook, and it was like, I can't remember what it was. It was like win your wedding videography, and it just went mental. Like hundreds and hundreds of people put the comment of like tagging people and stuff. And so not only did I do this, I think I did the wedding for free. But not only did I do the wedding for free, I then had hundreds of people getting married to talk to. So I just had conversations with them, and I think, I would just offer them a deal basically, and most of them did, and that was the start of it. And that was the start of Lincolnshire Videography.
It's a fantastic method, isn't it? And I spoke with the Costa sisters, and they did something very similar, and they were very strategic with it as well, in terms of they wanted specific, the way their style is, they need specific kind of people that are really buy into their style of filming, so they were able to pick and choose the people they wanted to create their brand from the beginning exactly how they wanted to. So were you in terms of the competition, were you was it literally random pick out of a hat, or did you get to choose who you wanted to use, like the wedding that would suit your portfolio to a certain degree?
I think it was. I think I just picked it at random at the time, and from there on, it was never for me. I look at some filmmakers who came in a few years after me, and they were very, very conscious about who they were filming, and they're very clever, business-minded people. For me at the time, just being completely honest, I wasn't bothered. Like, anything was better than working where I worked. Like, I would film any wedding. I would go to any wedding and film it, and I guess I took what some would say the hard path to where we are now, like going through the grind of not every wedding being amazing, and getting frustrated because certain things weren't happening that you thought should happen, and just learning on the tough path really to learning the craft. So yeah, in the beginning I would literally just film anything just to make that salary up, basically, that I was giving up by leaving that job. We had a mortgage, we had a child who was newborn, and the bills needed paying. So it was, if you were getting married and you were happy to pay me 500 quid for the day, I was happy. I was like, yeah, 500 quid for a day, no problem. And then just slowly built
amazing,
it up.
Isn't it? Even now, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
back
then that was great. Like, if I did 5 or 6 weddings in a month, that was more than my salary, and I was happy with that. I can go out for 5 or 6 days when I've been doing 60-hour weeks, and I can earn that amount of money. Yeah, perfect. So that's where it started. That's where it began.
And so what kind of pricing are you at the moment?
I try and keep it bespoke, and it's a great question because I'm always thinking, well, am I charging enough or am I charging too much?
Yeah.
And it's always on my mind, but I try and apply a bespoke pricing approach, really. So, when I'm not alienating somebody with a £2,000 budget, but at the same time, I'm not putting off somebody with a £5,000 budget. So I try and keep it like a pricing system which is bespoke. So a minimum is, I think, 2,500, and then if they want to add things on, like a second shooter or the ceremony and speeches edit, or reels or same day edits or things like that, then they can build up the package. And some people just say, hey, we just want that, and they just in the basket they just add everything on. And then other couples, quite understandably, because weddings are expensive, some other couples are just like, yeah, that's cool, we're happy with the base package.
So the base package, what did you say, 2,500? Did you say?
Yeah, so we start at 2,500 in the peak season. If it's winter time and we've got nothing else on, then like 1,995 for the highlights, basically. So
is the base package generally, is that just highlights that you're delivering, and then nothing? Is there anything else you're delivering with that?
Yeah, so generally that'd be like a highlight film, and then if they wanted like a feature film and things, obviously that's additional. So I'm never keep it the same. I'm terrible for it. I'm always adjusting it and thinking, well, maybe I should include the feature film, or maybe I shouldn't. So I'm not. I don't think I'm ever completely satisfied with that, and I don't think there's ever the right or wrong answer for it on like what you charge.
Isn't that what we all do as wedding filmmakers? Just constantly tweak those packages, doubt ourselves.
Of course we do.
We get that point of the year where the inquiries aren't coming in, we feel we should fall back.
Yeah, and then or you get
when
a couple
it's flowing,
of people,
we whack it up again.
You'll get a couple of people ghost, and you're like, oh, maybe I am too expensive. It's like constant self-doubt and imposter syndrome. Even now, like, always. But again, it's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. That's all I say to myself. Just don't worry about it. It's fine. Just, that. Yeah. I don't think in the range of videography, I don't think that's, out of this world price-wise. I think, if a couple can't work with you at sort of the £2,500 mark, then that's absolutely fine. Like maybe if it was a weekday wedding, we could do something. But I think that's definitely the sort of ballpark, really. And then, like I say, if it's a bigger wedding, then maybe it's, maybe they add loads of stuff on and they want like a multiple days and it's travel, and that soon builds up. But
So obviously your prices aren't on your website, so you have flexibility with sending out different brochures or different pricing. So if your base package, like you were saying, like 2.5, like on average, maybe that in other months that can drop down a little bit or slightly, or maybe go up. Are the add-ons always the same price, or do they change in price as well?
Yeah.
Like say for the second shooter and ceremony.
Like I said, there's nothing too fixed really with my pricing. If a couple come to me now and say, well, we're getting married on Friday, but we've only got 1,500 quid. Like, if I've got nothing to do on Friday, what am I going to do? Am I going to take the 1,500 quid and put the cameras to work? Or am I going to say, no, I'm far too good for that? I don't believe in that. Like, I think everybody should have their wedding filmed. And I think just help people, like, if you can as well. Like, it's not all about, I'm certainly not one of those people that's like, okay, well, I charge £3,000 and I'm not getting out of bed for that. Like, I don't agree with that. Like, if it makes sense, then I'll do it.
Yeah. So you mentioned when you first started out, you did like your kind of competition. Was that run on Facebook? Was it your competition that you did to get going, or?
Yeah, back in the day on Facebook, when I used to put every film on Facebook.
Yeah, when it used to actually work as a marketing platform for us.
Yeah.
But where do most of your bookings come from these days?
Word of mouth is the biggest source of bookings for me. I would say closely followed by social media. So I think probably social media is taking over the word of mouth actually now. But certainly in those earlier days, up until the last couple of years, like word of mouth, recommendation from photographers who like working with us because we're not in the way all day or we're not bossy, just try and capture things as naturally as possible. And then like venues and things, a little bit from website, but I would say mainly the word of mouth, but now it's started to be taken over by Instagram and TikTok and things like that.
Great segue, mate. Because I really want to have a little bit of a deep dive into your social media, because I've never seen numbers like this for wedding filmmakers, not UK ones specifically. So on Instagram, you've got 98,000 followers, absolute insane number. And on one of your reels in particular, you've got 15 million views on. and you've got others that are like 1.4 million, 1.2 million, insane numbers. And then looking at your TikTok as well, you've got 119,000 followers on TikTok, and you've got TikTok videos on there that have got like 3 million, 2.1 million, 2 million, 1 million. So absolutely insane numbers. I wonder if you can, let's start with Instagram. How have you got to this point? How have you got so many followers? What strategies have you followed? Is it by accident? Is it by design?
So I would say about 18 months ago, maybe 2 years ago, I was putting out, I was spending all of this time making like a really beautiful edit and posting it, and it was getting like 3 likes, and I was like, that's a bit strange. And then I was like, okay, look into this a bit deeper, and you will know this, but many people may not. It's the watch time. Like, people are not going through and watching somebody else's 3-minute wedding highlight. They're watching 5 seconds of it, and then the algorithm decides that it's not going to show it to anybody else. Now, it's not all about views, but at the same time, we do need our work to be seen by potential clients, don't we? So there is a balance there. So about 18 months ago, I just thought to myself, right, okay, I see a lot of content out on social media, and there's quite a lot of negative content out there. And I thought, how can we do something that puts... I feel very, very fortunate to be able to do the job that I do and to be part of the beautiful moments that I get to capture. The beautiful moments, the emotional moments, and the happy moments. And, you know, just being able to capture it is absolutely amazing. How can we share that with other people and brighten up their day a little bit by sharing that funny moment that happened, and by sharing that lovely moment where he was waiting at the end of the aisle and the tears were flowing? And they're things that, you know, I'll come back from a wedding and I'll tell my wife, I'll be like, you know, this happened at the wedding, and she'll be like, oh, that's awesome. But nobody else is seeing it. Like, only them people know about it. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's share some of those moments. So obviously have a chat to the couples and see if they're happy to let you share. They're letting us share the wedding clips anyway. Like, we're sharing their content online anyway. It's just a different form of it. It's a different kind. And so I just started to think, right, okay, especially as Reels took over on Instagram, let's talk about Instagram, especially as Reels started to take over, and obviously TikTok came in 2020 and things. And I just thought, okay, how can we use those Reels to bring eyes to the work that we're doing, but also like bring positivity into the world and share nice, happy moments in a sea of sometimes negative content. And so we just started to cut out really nice moments from wedding days and just post them regularly. I think one clip in particular of a vicar, he was absolutely the best vicar, or at least one of the best vicars that I've ever worked with. He was just the nicest man ever. He let us like stand where we want, obviously respectfully, and he was just really nice, and he was hilarious. He was so funny. And I just thought, do you know, if more vicars were like that, I'm sure more people would go to church or want to go to church. And in fact, the comments suggested that. Like, people said, if my vicar was like that, I would be in church every day, because he was just so real and so human and so funny. And we shared a clip, and it just went crazy. It just went mental. Like you mentioned earlier, like 15 million views. And it just got me thinking from that moment, like, people are resonating with real moments that happen. And I think that's why we're seeing... you know, people sharing phone content and it's getting viewed, and people I think were that used to being sold to through content like adverts on TV, all beautifully polished. And when we see something beautifully polished, I think we straight away think we're being sold to in one way or another, whether it's subconsciously or consciously, we think we're being sold to. So for me, the content and sharing that content online was multi-pronged, really. Like I mentioned, you know, sharing that positive content, bringing in the viewers to the other work. Like, for example, I posted a really nice clip of a bride did a surprise song for her husband, and he was a little bit like, she said at the beginning of this, I don't know if you've seen it, but she said at the beginning of the video, she was like, he hates it when I do this, and he was like, you're not, are you? No, please. And she shared it on her TikTok, and I shared it on mine, and I was just like, that is just hilarious. And like, people love that kind of stuff. And then off the back of that, I posted their highlight like a day later, and then that got loads of views as well, because people are invested in those people. And so it works business wise, and it works social wise. The only downside to getting loads of views is the troll comments, and how do you manage that, and where's the line with sharing some parts of somebody's day that opens it up to those kinds of people. And I guess the answer is that these kinds of people are everywhere, but for every 100 positive comments, there's only 1 or 2 negative. And I guess that's the world, isn't it? That's society. That's that you're always going to get those people. People don't like to see other people happy, and unfortunately on social media you're always going to get that. We try and just manage it by just replying to the comments first of all, and just saying like, no, you're wrong there, like, these people are lovely and this happened, and I'm sorry you're having a bad day, but there you go. But you can't stop it completely, and I guess that just comes down to the couple. Do they want their moment shared? Do they want it do they want opening up to that? And most people are not bothered, because it's like, well, why would I care about the opinion of one person or 5 people? Or obviously the bigger videos you get more troll comments, but these people have just got nothing better to do.
Yeah, so to break down your social content that's getting this view, just for people that maybe haven't looked, what you're sharing is kind of, rather than you are sharing kind of like highlight films on your profile as well, but the bits that's getting the big numbers is little snippets from kind of speeches and little bits from ceremony, and those in between moments, isn't it? That's really getting those big numbers. Like, for example, when you mentioned about the one about the vicar, the one that's got like 15 million views, you've shared a bit where he gets stuck trying to get up to the pulpit.
He was just honestly, he was just a breath of fresh air. Like, it just felt such a special. Those moments, obviously being in weddings for so many years, you can imagine, like yourself, you go to so many churches and there are so many really lovely churches, but you get the odd one where it's really difficult. And it was just so refreshing to go to his church, and it just to be light and airy, and it was just really nice. And a little bit like when I'm editing a highlight film, like, I get a warm feeling and I'm like, yeah, that's like, people need to see that. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm just to put the segue to show people what happens, but I just get a feeling of like, it's just an amazing moment. And the moments that we get to see, I don't know, maybe a little bit soppy, maybe get a bit soppy in my old age. I like the mushy stuff, and I just love to share it. It's great.
So are you, when you're going through your edit, are you consciously looking for little clips like that, those little in-between moments to create for your social content, or does it happen almost by accident?
Yeah, I think it's more by accident, really. It's not too heavily thought out. You'll get little light bulb moments on the day, like if something happens funny in the speeches, you'll be like, that will probably do well because that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I've not heard that before. Or you can generally tell if you've got a room full of 100 guests in speeches and they all absolutely belly laugh, that's the algorithm, right? So when you post that, 100 people will like it and they'll watch the whole thing, and then 200 people will watch it, then 1,000, then 2,000, then 10,000, and that's all it is. It's just sharing the moments that are genuinely really funny, and not all of them do well, and that's fine. Like, it's not all about chasing after the big views. Like, that does happen on the odd video, and that's great. But also, it's just like, I just enjoy, I don't know what it is, I just enjoy sharing the real moments as well. Like, not just the polished work that takes hours to edit and put that out as well. Of course, that's necessary because that's what we do, right? We're making the best film possible for the couple. But also, like, them real moments that happen, they're just awesome, and I love to share them.
Going back to that vicar one, there's a bit where he's chatting to the couple, which is clearly not really part of the ceremony, but it feels like it was. Did it happen before, where he was on about being in the chip shop with no money? Did that happen during the ceremony, or was that kind of before or after?
They were signing the register.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So if you look, the bride's actually signing the register, and at that point, we always lock a camera off on there because you get some really nice conversations for their film usually between the bride and groom, but also sometimes between like the bride and the groom and their mums and dads. And I think that section there, like, I don't know about yourself, but sometimes you're tempted to not bother filming the signing of the register because you're not, one, legally allowed to film it and all that, and they get protective over it, don't they? But I always put like a wide camera or a medium camera somewhere just on that area, just because you pick up some nice. And that was, to be honest, before sharing that clip, that was before they even thought of sharing like bits and pieces of funny moments or happy moments from weddings. That was just for the couple mainly, because you do pick up some really nice moments during that time. And it was almost by accident. I was just editing their ceremony and listening through like I always do to those moments, and I just heard him say it. I was like, that's just so funny, like just so real, just so great. I just loved it.
Yeah, I think because that was the one thing with it. I was trying to work out when it was, because I am very strict. Like, I only look at the bits during that ceremony, because just from a time point of view. So it looked like you must have searched through to find that. But I guess if you are filming during that signing of the register, it's quite easy to pick up on that, really, isn't it? That bit.
I think for years I've always mic'd up 5 or 10 minutes before the ceremony and had a camera rolling on the groom, because you pick up some hilarious moments there as well, like the best man saying, "It's not too late, I've got your passport in the car, like we can go." And I years gone by, I would always include that in their film anyway, like just those funny moments. Just on that particular one, he was just too funny throughout the whole ceremony not to like share, because he was just he just had everybody in fits of laughter for the whole thing.
So in terms of like when you're saying you're putting those little those kind of in between moments in your film, like how would that play out in terms of having the dialogue come through between the music, or is it, do you put those bits in between the transition before music starts? Or I'm trying to figure out in my head how those little in between moments would work their way into like a feature film, for example.
It's usually with the waveform of the song. So as one song's ending, that'd be the bride at the door, and then the next song's beginning as he stood there. So there's always like a drop in the waveform from that song starting and that one ending. And so I'd put the little bits of dialogue in there. Like some weddings, no dialogue happens just before. He's like silent. He might cry, but if there's anything, that I think the couple would laugh at or they'd like to see, that, especially the bride, because she doesn't know what he's saying, right? And obviously if it was like really bad, then I wouldn't put it in. But if it's something funny like, I think I'm going to cry, or something like talking to his best man, then I would put that in as a segue into the next bit of like coming in and the ceremony commencing. So
it's in kind of almost put in there in its chronological position where it would
sometimes,
where it makes sense.
Not always. Sometimes, Sometimes it'll just only be in the full ceremony edit. But if it works for the film, then I try and include it.
I really like this idea, because that I'm always my delivery is like a 3 to 5 minute highlight film and an 8 to 10 minute extended film, and quite often I'm thinking I don't feel there's enough difference between these two films to make it worthwhile for my couple. So bringing in little moments like that aren't quite as polished but have a little have some character and some soul to them in terms of story to add in there would really lift those films. I think it's a great shout, just looking out for these little moments in between and little bits of audio to kind of scatter in there. And I guess as well that it comes back for me, I think we're all guilty of it sometimes, trying to create something polished for Instagram because we think like we've got to keep up with the next person, we've got to make our work look as good as possible. But like I mentioned to you earlier on in the podcast, like it's always first about capturing for me. It's always first about preserving that moment that happened, whether it be the first look with the dad. I'm not on an 85 in only slow motion, getting the hands, then the face, then her face, and trying to make it look like there was 20 cameras there. For me, I'd rather just be on a 50mm and capture that moment. And then as they have a hug, then I'll go in and get those moments after I've captured the moment, if that makes sense. And the audio is really important as well. Like we have stereo mics on to bring back the mood in that room and just try and bring it back to life for them. So it's hard. I would say we're definitely documentary. That's 100%. Like we're somewhere in the middle between like, trying to do those things where you're sequencing up shots and making it look nice and fancy, but actually whilst preserving that moment as well, and not silhouetting that moment because it looks really nice with the veil and the window light and things like that. Just capturing the moment as nicely composed as possible. But whilst actually preserving that moment. So I would say with my films, I try and just, first of all, make the film
for the couple and what I know they're going to absolutely love to see. And then you can get more creative with like your highlights or your teasers and things, and maybe try things that you might have in your mind. And but I always just try and shoot the wedding that's in front of me, and not the one that for years gone by I'd go to the wedding and I think, right, I want to get this shot and that drone shot, and I want to get this, and this is what I want. But somewhere along the line, I just said to myself, like, it's not about what I want. It's not about me. Like, yeah, I am creative and I do have these ideas and things, but let's first capture the wedding. And if I see an opportunity, I will take a chance. Like, I will take a chance and try and get those extra shots, but always whilst the couple are at the forefront of that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that approach. And I mean, all the talk is always about kind of curating your work to almost please planners, I guess. But where did the couple factor into that? Surely we should be there serving them first and foremost.
And it's a real thing, isn't it? Because there are many people out there that will create their work to suit the planners, and I get it. I get why they do, and if that's what they want to do, then fine. Like, I don't mind what anybody does with their business. That's up to them. But for me personally, and how I feel the most comfortable, is working for the couple and working to capture the film as best as physically possible. Like, you know, if the budget permits and we can put multiple, I mean, we've got one in December where we've got 3 of us shooting. There's a same day edit, and you know, everything's going on. There's loads of stuff going on, but at the same time, you know, you've got to balance it out, haven't you? And going back to what we was just saying there, you know, where you was asking about like those little documentary moments. I think going back onto the tangent there. That's how we started sharing those social media clips, because it's something we'd always been doing years gone by, is utilising those moments and sharing them with the couple, and couples absolutely loved it. And then, as Reels sort of came in, it was like, okay, well, you know, these short form Reels that are like, now the algorithm wants them to be a minute long, like that's the perfect length for an aisle walk, or that's the perfect length for, you know, a funny segment of a speech, and people are watching it and they want to see that. And is every person that watches going to be a potential customer? No. But if you get 1 million views, will, you know, a few hundred of those people be serious and click through to your work and have a look at your Instagram and drop you a DM? Absolutely, they do that. So it's definitely led to an upturn in enquiries, even, you know, with this year being a little bit quieter, definitely. But it's definitely helped by sharing those moments. It's almost like the back end is the moments and things, but then the grid is like the polished work. So it's like you can see what we are capturing real wise, like not just real as in the reel that you flick through, but real as in the real moment. This is what we do, but also we can make this really nice for you as well. So
yeah, because that's what I've noticed. It's almost so that on your Instagram profile, on the Reels section, that's where these kind of in between moments are, these real moments.
Yeah.
I'm confusing myself with the word real here.
Same.
So the snippets from the speeches, for example, because the way you present them are straight cuts from your speeches, aren't they? It's a multicam. It's a clip it's a section from a multicam edit.
Yeah.
We're not talking B-roll here, but all your reels are all those kind of moments, and they're racking up those numbers.
Yeah.
You go onto your grid and you don't see any of that. It's the more polished highlight films.
Yeah.
But they're still getting good numbers as well. So like you're saying, the reels that you put out are almost the bait.
Yeah.
You're putting out there, you're getting lots of people come in, and then you're getting, I mean, to have like 98,000 followers is insane, isn't it? So I can't imagine the vast majority of them are actual people that are looking for a wedding videographer at the moment.
Surely not. Surely that, you know, they're just normal people that like to watch real moments and find it interesting as well. So yeah, it's definitely that's the back end. The real moments is the back end, and then I'm always trying to find again that word balance. So it's always trying to balance it out. Like, we are there to capture the wedding first and foremost, and these are the moments that we're capturing. But also, we know that couples want like a nice polished looking product as well. So, you know, it's just having that bit of both attitude to it. And yeah, I think with Instagram specifically, you can't do it on TikTok, but with Instagram specifically, you are able to have it just on the Reels page, like your the real moments. which is really useful because, like you say, you get that view, they click on your profile and then they get to see your work. And if they're serious, they can click on the link to the website and, that's the pathway to the inquiry.
Because also as well with like the reels, you very much utilize the how Instagram likes things to be presented, is in using the inbuilt captions and stuff, aren't you? Whereas you're not trying to like overly polish them, are you? You're trying to keep them very much, they look like they belong within a sea of Instagram reels.
Yeah.
And is that intentional? Is that so that you don't stick out as trying to sell?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Now as we're sharing more, again, it's a balance. Like it's not. I'm not looking at a reel to share it and hoping it gets millions of views. Like I mentioned earlier, we're shooting 25 weddings, so we're turning a lot of the inquiries away because we're either booked for the date or we don't want to take weddings on that date because we've got commercial work on or we're away on holiday or what have you. But there's a definite balance there. I love to share it. It's great when it does well, and for me, it's almost being able to see them. For example, the girl that did the song. I've not seen one bad comment, or if I have, it's the odd stupid person. But most of the people are like, absolutely love it, and it's just nice to see other people enjoying that moment as much as I did when I was filming it. Like we were cracking up behind the camera, like it was just such an amazing moment, and now we're able to share that with people. And of course, like it benefits us as well because obviously people will follow and they'll interact more with the polished work, and it's great. So it's like, yeah, it's 50-50. It works for us. The couples love it as well, and also the wider people in the world love it. And it's nice to put out something positive. And I think the top of the TikTok page is like happy films, happy moments. This is a page where you come and follow, and you will only see happiness. You won't see death, destruction, war. We're not about that. We just want to film real people being real.
It's like a detox for their eyes and minds to all the sea of sadness that we often see in negativity.
Yeah, and it's not
resetting it.
It's not all sad, is it? Let's face it. Like I've probably overplayed that there a little bit, but it's just nice. I'm sure you feel the same. It's the same feeling you will get sharing a piece of your work. Like you just get a really nice feeling, don't you, from sharing it? And it's, for me, it's like giving people a window into that wedding day and seeing that amazing moment happen, and being able to sort of enjoy it as much as the people that were there did.
I so often I'm saying to my couples and people that I chat to on wedding days, I'm saying, they always ask about, they go, this job must be quite good, and I'm not, honestly, it's incredible. And I feel like my view of the world is slightly skewed though, because the media are always trying to show you all the negative things that are going on in the world, but we spend the majority of our lives with people having the best day of their lives. So I feel like I only see mainly positive stuff all the time, and I think that makes me a positive person as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And like you say, to be able to share that, let people have a little insight to what we see is quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it is, and I think that's the real nice thing about being able to share those real moments, is that it's not all just polished, and it's not all Instagram perfect. It's like this they're just real people like everybody else, and just having a real wedding, and it's great.
And what's your workflow for? Because this is what I struggle with. My workflow for social media. I'll do I'll do my film. I'll get it sorted, get it packed up, get it delivered. Then I've not put any time in my kind of workflow to go back through to search for social media content through that wedding. Do you assign time to do that for each project?
Whilst I'm still in the edit, what I will do is, as I've been editing, I will mark out moments that I do think could be shared online. And then what I will then do is, once everything's done, so the culling's done, the edit's done, the feature's done, the ceremony and speeches are done, everything's rendered off and out. What I used to do is then I would then deliver the films. What I now do is I'll spend an extra hour culling out the social media content, both polished and unpolished. And then I'll render those off and drop them into a content file, and then generally I will just share that out as and when. Really, there's no real schedule for sharing that stuff. It's more just as and when, really. If I'm sat on the sofa at night, maybe just relaxing after a day of editing and I'll have a piece of content to share, I'll just pop it out.
Yeah. And so when you talk about polished and unpolished, so your unpolished sections are kind of straight sections taken straight from speeches or ceremony or little moments like that, aren't they? Just they'll already be kind of edited together in a way because it's just your multicams that you drop in.
Yeah, that's
it.
What
are your polished sections that you're putting together? Are you creating lots of mini bits of content from each wedding, or are you creating just like one overall kind of like highlight Instagram reel or something like that?
It just depends. It differs from wedding to wedding, really, and just depends what they've booked. You know, for example, if the client's booked a highlight film, then obviously we'll share the highlight film with the couple. We might share the full thing on Instagram, but rarely. Usually, it's more of a more broken down 60-second clip. And again, I think that's purely because we know, like, you post a 3-minute thing and it's going to go nowhere because no one's going to sit for 3 minutes. However, now that we sort of, for example, with the girl singing the other day, we shared out that in 2 parts, and straight away after that we shared out their highlight film, which was 5.5 minutes, and that did really well as well because people were invested from that moment. So it's almost like, like they've seen those real moments and now they're invested in the couple, and they will sit and watch the whole thing because they're invested. So it's almost like it's another gateway into getting people to watch that full work. And then you never know, they might know somebody who's getting married and they might want to reach out, and you know, if nothing else, like, people are just seeing the work that we're spending hours creating. Like, you know, there's nothing more disheartening, is there, like, as a filmmaker, like putting something out and just nobody really seeing it.
Yeah, just gets lost in the algorithm somewhere. So when you've posted those kind of the snippets of the bride's singing the song to the groom, and then the highlight film comes on, are you doing anything to link to that highlight so people know that this is that same girl, this is a highlight film, or is it just a case that it lands on their For You page or the Reels page that naturally? No, I don't think we're linking anything. I just posted it straight after, so all 3 within like an hour or something. So because you know that when somebody watches the first one, they'll click on your profile to go find the second one, and then they'll see the thumbnail of, oh, there's another thumbnail there, we'll click on that. So that is really clever. Is that intentional? Or is it just a way you're like, I've got it, I'll post it out? Or is it a case of, let's get some real moments, give the story behind the people, get some investment, smack them with a highlight film? Was that intentional?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I love that. Absolutely love that. It's a great shout. And all of us must have, so from every wedding, have these little moments. There's something from every wedding, isn't there?
There is.
And so often, like during speeches, when there was a mistake, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got to edit that out for the film. But now I might be thinking, oh, that could make a good clip.
And I guess there's always going to be a line, isn't there? Like with what you should and shouldn't share. Like, and I think it's always just about having that conversation with your couples and just making sure that they're first and foremost happy with what you're going to share, and is that okay? Because it's their private day at the end of the day, isn't it? And we do work with couples that don't want anything sharing online. Like, they're just not. They're not sort of, you know, not up for that. Maybe because of the jobs they do, or they just might be private people. So it's not for everybody, but generally speaking, it's a really positive thing. With the odd exception of, like I say, like the odd troll, but apart from that, like, you're going to get that, aren't you? Especially with lots of views.
With millions of views, like, it's going to happen. The internet is what it is, isn't it?
It is.
So are you if when you've extracted this content for your socials, particularly the unpolished moments, are you showing that to your couple and saying, look, I've got this, I want to post it? Or is it something that you've discussed beforehand that you might just post parts from the day? No,
generally I'll just ask if we can share. I'll just describe the moment. I won't send them the video. I'll just be like, oh, can I share that part? That funny part of the speech, for example. Or in the case of the bride who sung, for example, well, she shared it on TikTok, so I knew already that she was happy, and she'd already let us know in the booking paperwork that she's happy for us to share content from the wedding. So that's you just got to play it by ear with every couple, really. And I don't share. I'm not. It's not like I get here and I think, oh, we've got to feed the TikTok machine. We need to get some content out there. Like, it's really just a relaxed thing for me. Like, if I think people would find something nice to watch or funny to watch or a really warm moment, then I'll share it out. If I don't, then I won't. And it's that simple, really. It's just that what feeling I get on the day, really. from that moment, really, how it makes me feel, and would other people like to see that? And if so, great. And at the same time, not bullshitting you, like, that helps us as well. Like, it brings people to the website, it brings people to the Instagram page, it gets follows as well, and that is unfortunately the world we live in, isn't it? Like, you are, you know, aesthetic, you are judged on the aesthetic of your socials, whether, you know, directly or indirectly, people are making judgments when they click on there, like how many followers do they have, or, you know, what does their work look like. And so there has to be a balance, of course. But yeah, in terms of like how it happened, it was planned in terms of I wanted to share out more real moments, just because I enjoyed sharing them out. But in terms of like how it just went mental, that was just like, it must have just been a magical moment. Like, it was just a magical moment, and I knew it was a magical moment, so I shared it, and then everybody else thought it was a magical moment. And for some reason, that has kept reoccurring, because, again, I'll just get that feeling at a wedding. I'll be like, that's magic, that's awesome. Like, I've not seen that before, or that made me feel something. So if it's made me feel something, and these 100 people feel something, it's going to make other people feel something. I'm not farming everybody's wedding and thinking, oh, that'll be good content. But at the same time, if I do feel like it's going to be something that's going to be awesome, then I'll share.
Hi guys, it's Roo here, just briefly interrupting the episode to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Musicbed. Musicbed really is the best platform for licensing music for your wedding films. They have a huge database of amazing songs and brilliant search control, so you can really hone in on the type of song that you need for your edit. Chatting to all these incredible filmmakers during the podcast, one of the repeated themes that I've noticed is that they're all using Musicbed to license their music. I myself have been using it for the last 6 years and really don't think there's anything else in the market that comes close. If you'd like to try Musicbed out for yourself, click the link in the description and you'll get a 14-day free trial where you can download and keep 3 songs to use in your projects, and you can see firsthand how good the music selection is. Now let's get back to the episode. 98,000 followers. Like, before you started putting out these kind of like reels that started to gather the followers up, how many kind of followers did you have, and then how did that progress throughout the stages of it?
On Instagram, I think I had, just before the Vico video went viral, I think I had about 6,000 followers on there. And once I shared out the Vicar video and it started to sort of go viral very quickly, actually, overnight, I woke up the next day and like tens of thousands of notifications on my phone. And I was like, what the hell? What's gone on? Is the world ending or something? So I had a look, and it had gone mental, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, it's great.
Was that follower notifications?
No, I think that was like notification from comments and likes, and things like that. So I had a look, and it was like, yeah, wow, that's, you know, it's on 3 million already. I'm like, oh, bloody hell, overnight almost. And then it just got me thinking, like, it was in the winter months, and I was just thinking, oh, okay, so people are liking the real moments from weddings. Like, what else have I got? And historically, I would keep copies of ceremonies and speeches, and it just got me thinking. And I remembered back to another wedding that I shot a few years before, where a father of the bride did a really awesome surprise song for the daughter. So I shared that out, and that then did well. And I was like, okay, so that's done well. Okay, what else have we got? Like, what else moments over the years? What amazing moments have we been a part of that people would love to see? And I think in one of the videos, I thought, okay, so how can... I had the thought of, like, how can this benefit business-wise as well? Like, it's great sharing these moments, but how can we benefit from this as well? Like, so we put in the comments, like, follow for the next part, which, looking back, is probably a little bit clickbaity, a little bit spammy, whatever you want to say. But we played the game, and you know, people did follow, and it went from like 6,000 followers up to like 50,000 followers, and then it just started climbing as we were posting more videos. And I don't think for the past few videos I've put as in the beginning it was very fresh and it was very like exciting, because you know, we like people to see our work, don't we? As videographers, we do. Like, if you say you don't, then you're lying, because we spend hours and hours editing the film, and then we give it to the couple, and we're like waiting for that email, aren't we? Like, we're waiting for that call or that email just to say that it's great, or, you know, that they loved it and everything's fine. And I guess, you know, when we shared that out and it did well, it became a little bit addictive. It was a bit like, wow, this is great. It's what a great feeling. Like, all these people are loving these moments, and
that dopamine hit.
Yeah, it was. It really was. But now, as like time's gone on and like 18 months has passed, or 2 years, whatever it's been, I couldn't tell you exactly. It's more now just like, okay, so that's great, and let's just continue to share. But it's not so much now about like I want to get millions of followers or anything. It's more, it's just nice to share those moments and for people to see those amazing moments. Like, we get messages all the time saying, you've literally made my day. Like, I was having the worst day ever and I've just seen that video and it's just restored my faith in humanity. Or, you just don't know sometimes. You just don't know what people are going through and how. And it's not for 1 second like, woe is me, kind of like I'm saving people by sharing these videos, because it's not. It's just I feel really privileged to do the job that I do, and I see so many amazing moments throughout a whole wedding day, and some of those moments do deserve to be shared with people, like as long as the couple are happy to do to share those moments. So it's just a good thing in general, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite interesting. So in terms of like, you went viral, you weren't getting followers initially, but when you started putting in the kind of follow for more, that's when the followers started racking up.
If it's going to be seen by millions of people, they might just click on it, watch it, and then you never see them again. While we've got their attention, why don't we convert them into a follower? Because the more people, the more eyes that are on your work, surely that's what we all want, because that's going to lead to more weddings or better weddings, or whatever it may be. So it was just a thought I had on early on to put the follow for more. And I don't think I did it all in parts. It was sometimes just follow for more happy films, like the first comment.
Yeah.
Follow if you like more happy films, like, because that's what's going to be shared on this channel. And people did. And I think Instagram is like a plateau now. It's like, it doesn't go up majorly. Sometimes it drops by 100, or if I post something on my story like, oh, I'm on holiday, I might lose 100 followers. But then if I post something funny, you get another few hundred followers. But again, it doesn't matter. If you only want to film 25 weddings, then you can have all the inquiries that you want, can't you?
Is there an income stream from having the amount of views that you've got? I mean, I know TikTok has like a kind of creator program. Are you part of that? Can you earn money from that?
Yeah, definitely. So when TikTok first started and they started to pay creators, it was quite a good, a good amount that you could earn from it. That's gone right down now, like everything. I guess it doesn't last for too long. But we make a little bit. It's not life changing. It's not like you see these YouTubers that are getting tens of thousands of pounds come through the post in checks from Google or anything like that. It's just the odd £5 or £6 per video or something like that, which adds up over time. But some videos do better than others, but to answer your question, there is an income there when you hit a certain. I can't remember the exact numbers you have to hit, but it's a certain amount of followers and a certain amount of video views in the last 60 days or something. So,
do you know what kind of, like, say for a year, how the kind of income you could expect for someone with your numbers from socials?
Oh, it's a good question. I'd have to have a look. I'd have to have a look back and see. But yeah,
is it thousands? Or are we talking more like hundreds?
It's probably more in the thousands.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, if after a year, if you posted regularly, it'd be in the thousands. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be like it's a worthwhile exercise, isn't it, for some people to, because often my thought with social content is, you're putting that out there in terms of to get numbers, to get people to eyeballs on your work. But if there's also the kind of reward of financial gain from it as well, some of those things that I take on board perhaps too much in terms of everything needs to be super polished and super clean and on brand. But if unpolished work can get money...
Yeah, no, that's it.
Another reason to share.
And these platforms are rewarding people for like sharing those real moments, because it's keeping people on the platform, isn't it? Like, it's keeping them engaged in the media on there and ultimately keeping them on the platform. So they are rewarding people. But again, like I say, it was really good. It's not amazing. Like Instagram, you don't earn anything from, but yeah, TikTok you do. But it's gone right down. They pay you per 1,000 views, and it used to be like 95 pence per 1,000 views, and now it's gone down to like 6 pence or 5 pence or something ridiculous like that. So it's nothing life changing, but again, it's nice to have that extra bit of income, even if it is just a few £100. Like it's.
So like a couple of hours time of getting the content, posting it is possibly kind of covered.
I don't think we'd be making too much if you took time into account. I don't think we'd be probably making anything actually. If you were to charge for your time and factor your time in, we might be not making anything with it. But that was never the intention.
No.
That was never the intention to monetize it. It was only purely by chance that it came up. In a notification, it was like, oh, you've hit this number to monetize. Well, why wouldn't you click OK? Like, okay, let's see what we can do. But that's never the intention, and it's certainly not big enough to think, oh, I'm going to farm this wedding and I'm going to post it and it might make me £5,000, because that's not going to be the case. Like, you'd have to post hundreds and hundreds of videos to make £5,000. Unless you were getting like 100 million views per video or something, then obviously you'd quickly rack some money up. But yeah, for me, it's not. It's nice. I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, it is nice to have that extra little bit, but it's not life changing, and it's not something that's it's going to make us sort of hungry to just farm out as much as we can. It's got to all be balanced.
Absolutely, yeah. With everything we do, isn't it? That balance is the key word for everything, but hard to find balance with all these different things we have to handle. And you mentioned about the troll comments. So, have you ever had any kind of like couples be upset? I'll mention to you specifically when something's been posted from their wedding and then troll comments have come in, or
only once we had a wedding where we shared a speech, and I just turned the comments off because it weren't just troll comments, it was like every comment, and they were coming in second by second, like really negative comments about just the way that this particular, I think it was a best man actually, it weren't the groom, it was the best man, but the way he was talking, they were making, all sorts of assumptions about what he'd taken and things like that, which I just thought was really not very nice. So I just turned the comments off, so they're just not there. And always, if it was, but the couple wanted me to take a video down, then obviously, absolutely, like, But yeah, it's always something. It's always a conversation like, can we share moments from your wedding? Yep. Whether that'll continue, people know we've got an account that's like gone viral. Whether people will want that attention in the future, maybe not. Maybe some couples will be like, no, actually, because you've got quite a lot of followers and that's going to get a lot of attention. Like, it's all right if you've, just like 2,000 or 3,000 people are going to see it. But when you're talking like millions of people, do they want that?
Yeah.
And that might change in the future, and that's fine also. Like I say, my intentions is to just share out that positive content and let other people see those amazing moments that we're able to capture as well. So if that is something that doesn't last forever, then that's okay.
But you have seen an upturn in inquiries and business. Have you booked people that have found you specifically through these reels? Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
There's one thing that I've always noticed about your work, and it's how you light the dance floor. I love the look of and if I'm going to guess, it looks like you've got one light that you can maybe focus, and you often shoot towards it and into it. Am I right?
Yeah. So it's something that I'm always thinking about when it comes to the dancing shots, and I'm always thinking, should we just shoot with the available light and like have the DJ's lights all over their face and things like that? And I think I went for a period of completely lighting it and not having the DJ have his green and yellow dots going all over the couple, and sort of being a bit too controlling over it. And certainly over the last few years, as we've just gone completely documentary, like, I'm not so bothered. But yeah, to answer your question, we have a spotlight at the back of the room, which if you shoot into gives you that nice flare. And then we have just little panel lights on top of the camera as you get closer to them, just to wrap that light around them and give that nice look as well.
Right.
There is a time and a place to use it. We don't keep it on all night. Like, we'll probably turn the strength down a little bit as well, because it can illuminate the dance floor, and if the dance floor is going to go off and it's just going to be a hell of a party, that's going to happen anyway. But sometimes I have noticed it where it's like, oh, that's probably a bit bright on the dance floor. Let's turn that down or turn it off, because people are like, don't want to. It's almost like, oh, the light, you know.
Yeah. There's a new sun that you brought in here.
Yeah,
and you often get DJs, if the dance floor is not popping, the DJ totally assumes it's our lights, don't they?
Yeah, every time. To be fair, photographers love the lights though that we bring, because they don't have to flash, and they're like, that is such nice light, because it's like what is it now? It's an aperture. It's an aperture 120D Mark II or something. So it's like a really good balance to daylight, and it just gives nice tones in the skin and things like that. But yeah, to answer your question, so we have a spotlight and a panel, and then we just get involved in the dancing and just, get right in there.
And is the aim always to be shooting into the spotlight? Is that how you've got it set up?
Yeah, not always. Like, again, I won't just stay in one position. I'll work my way the whole way around the dance floor, because you always get them people, don't you, dancing in the shadows, and you think, well, that's Grandma and Grandad there. Like, so I'll go and capture Grandma and Grandad, because that's going to be important to them, especially in like 10 years' time. Yeah,
absolutely. And having a panel on the top of your camera, does that? I don't know. I'd feel like I'd stand out like a sore thumb going around. But is it when it's a busy dance floor, people don't really notice?
They don't care, mate. No, they're not bothered. And I think if anything, like, they play to it a little bit, like they're, But no, it's not for everybody. Like, I know it's not for everybody. Some people like to just be more, in the shadows and shooting where they can. And I'll probably give that a try one day.
Yeah,
just turn the lights off and go into darkness.
Don't change that dance floor for it. It's just incredible. And so, just to go back to your aperture light, are you able to focus the beam on it? So it's
so it's got a Fresnel lens on it, and then you can just focus it in. I have it somewhere between spot and wide, somewhere in the middle.
Is it battery powered?
Yeah, so we have a V mount battery on it, and last hours.
Right, and you just put that to the back of the room, out of the way.
Yeah, just tuck it behind something and up high, beam it across up high, so it's not in people's faces.
And the panel that you're using on top of your camera, what brand is that? What make is it?
That's an Aperture as well. I can't remember the exact brand, the exact model, but it's just a little square Aperture light. But yeah, I like Aperture because the CRI on the light is really close to daylight. It's like 98% or even higher.
I think there's a film on your website, and it's a same-sex wedding, two brides, and I swear you've got that spotlight outside.
Is that yeah? If you watch any of our films, you'll see the spotlight. It's like, where's Wally?
Yeah. So you're almost replicating Golden Hour with it to a certain point. I can't remember what the part of the film is I'm thinking of, but they're both outside together, aren't they? And you're shooting into the spotlight. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. They had the Backchat brass band. So we put it behind the band, I believe, and then filmed into the band and them and the people dancing. It just looked nice. It looked good. It was almost like dusk out, so it weren't dark, but it weren't bright. But we knew it was fastly getting dark, so we'd need a bit of light out there. But yeah, it worked really well. But it's funny. That. Like on any of the films, it's always there in the dancing shots. Like, a little bit of a stickler for what we know.
Yeah, it's stunning though, but it makes such a difference. And I'd be the same if I had that light. I'd be like, where can I put it now?
Some people would be horrified, wouldn't they? About some videographers would be horrified about one, having that big clunky thing to carry in and set up, and two, lighting up the dance floor. Use the available light. And I get it. And but for me, I like that look. But like I say, I might try it one day. Just going lights off, but the Canons are not as good low light as the Sonys. I do know that.
Right, yeah. See, these Canons just restricting you, mate.
I know. I need to move back over.
The things you've given up for an ND filter.
I'm easily led. Don't convince me.
What drone are you using? Because it looks like it might, certain shots you got before, it looks like it might be an Inspire or something. It looks...
We've got two drones. So I've got the Mavic 3 Cine, and then we've got the Inspire 2.
Right, okay. Because I could tell some of the drone shots thinking this isn't a standard. There's definitely some kind of compression in the shots.
Yeah, 100%. Particularly the wedding we shot at the Chateau in France. I don't know if you saw that one. It was on Channel 4, the Escape to the Chateau place. Amazing place.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did watch that one.
And the sun's just hitting the chateau, and that was on I think it's like a 50 mil, but because of the crop, it's like a 70. And just shooting through the trees, it just gives that compression. It's pretty awesome, the Inspire 2, to be fair. We use it where we can, but because it's such a big drone, you can't use it in a lot of places. Like, it has to be somewhere that's like private land, or, you know, in the middle of nowhere. There's no people around, so you can get in a bit of trouble with that. If you were to fly it like over a city or a town or something, you'd need special permissions.
And what was the other drone you said you had? Was it, did you say Mavic Cine?
Yeah, the Mavic 3. Is it Mavic 3? Mavic 3 Cine, yeah.
And what's I don't know much about that. What's the cine aspect of it? Is it like a better lens?
I think it's ProRes, Apple ProRes. It's got Apple ProRes. I think it's 6K, something like that.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it's nice drone. I think there's a better one out now where it's like got a zoom function and things, but yeah, it does the job. Again, put some ND filters on there and get it. We tend to film the drone shots at like 30 frames a second and then bring them back to 25 in the post, and it gives it. You know, if you've ever flown a drone and you're like doing a parallax and the trees look to be like stuttering, like it's almost like they're jumping. Well, if you film at 30, you probably already know this, but some people won't.
I do not know this, mate. This is new news.
So if you film at 30 and then when you drop it into your timeline, click automatic speed in Final Cut or whatever you edit on, and it will slow the clip down to like 84% or something along those lines, and then that brings it to 25 frames a second, and it makes everything in the shot smooth blur as you.
Nice.
Yeah, it's I couldn't tell you the technical reason why it does that. It just does.
Yeah.
And we've been doing it for years, and it just takes away, like, if you're going over trees, and sometimes it can be a little bit, it looks like the trees are like jumping, or, you know, if there's traffic going past, it looks like the car's going. It just sometimes looks weird when you're filming it, but then when you do that 30 frames, slow it down to 84%, it looks dreamy.
Yeah. So 30 conformed to 25, and it's giving you a bit of a smoother look. Yeah. That's interesting. Another thing I'm going to nick for my work.
No, it's good. Give it a go.
So the last question that I like to I ask this to everybody is, what were the biggest light bulb moments in your career so far when something suddenly made sense, and how did you progress and find a path that you want to take?
It's a great question, and I think for me, it probably comes back to, again, a few years ago, and being less interested in what other people are doing, being less critical and comparing yourself, certainly in those earlier days of business, and realising that we work for the couple, and the way that I've found the success in my business is to just make my film the best I can for the couple, and then other people will resonate with that. Like, I'd say the light bulb moment is just like releasing yourself from that, what used to be for me, like, am I good enough? Like, why am I not shooting that kind of wedding? And for me now, like, if I absolutely love to shoot a farm wedding, for example, like a farmer's wedding. I love them. Absolutely love them. Do I want to be in Italy every weekend? Absolutely not. Like, I don't want to be away from my family for like 4 or 5 days a week. Would 1 or 2 a year be nice? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't want to be doing those all the time. So for me, like, you know, just a farm wedding or a barn wedding or a normal, what I would call a normal wedding, I'm more than happy with. So yeah, light bulb moment for me was just being happy with what I've got in life in general. Being happy with the people around me, being happy with the films that I make, doing the best I can, putting positivity out into the world, and just trying to just generally be a decent human being that contributes to the world, and not take, capitalise.
Awesome. What an answer, mate. Where can people find your work? What are your socials and your website?
Yeah, so it's just at Lincolnshire Videography across all social media platforms. Or website is just the W's, and then lincolnshirevideography.com.
And they need to get on that Instagram and check out the Reels section for sure.
Some people don't. Some people don't know where the Reel section is. Like, fellow creatives will, for sure. But you know, when you post a reel and they'll be like, "Where's part 2?" and you're like, "It's in our Reels," and they're like, "No, it's not. We've been on your Instagram. It's not there. No, it's in the Reels section." So yeah, the second tab across for anybody that doesn't know.
So, like, that's just giving me one more question. I'm sorry, I got to squeeze this in there. When you've got a social media account as big as yours, in terms of like admin, in terms of replying to comments and stuff, that must take up so much time. Is that that something you have to kind of factor in?
Yeah, and I don't really reply to all the comments, and I don't read them all because sometimes it's a bit too there's a bit too many like to read. But you generally, as you're flicking through your notifications, you'll get a vibe for if that video is getting positive comments. And usually, for any negative comments, I don't need to say anything because there's about 1,000 people that are telling that negative person where to go and like go and watch something else. Like it sort of sorts itself out, if that makes sense. But in terms of like looking after the account, because we manage social media accounts in our commercial business, we're used to that as well. So we just try and like certain comments, and if we get messages and stuff, reply to them, or send them to the website if they're looking to book. Sometimes when I remember, for example, when the Vicar video went viral, my phone was like nuclear. I've never seen anything like it, and I've not experienced it since. Like, we've had some videos do really well, but that was just like on another level, like just constant notifications. In fact, I don't even have notifications turned on Instagram anymore or TikTok. I have them turned off on my phone because otherwise my phone's just lighting up constantly. And I was finding that like I'd be editing and I'd be like, I'd be constantly looking over. So now I leave the phone out of sight and I don't have any notifications turned on. So because it can be distracting.
God, absolutely. I mean, I get distracted by it with the small numbers I have. So I can't imagine what it's like when you've got something going as viral as that.
Yeah.
And I've noticed as well, like, I'm still going. I'm so sorry.
Keep going, mate.
Like the Vickers, that Vicar reel, you've posted that a couple of times, right? Or is it different versions of it that you've reposted? And it's each time though, it's still hit millions.
Yeah, I think I have posted it a couple of times, to be fair. I'm not sure if it weren't with and without captions as well. But I've definitely posted it a couple of times, and it has done it really well. I think initially we posted it on TikTok, and then posted it onto Instagram. People seem to love that one in particular. But anything that's just real and a bit different, I think in weddings in general, things can be a bit samey, can't they? So when people see something a bit different, they're like, "Oh, okay, let's have a look at this." Just try and be a bit different and just share something different. And I think that in the films that we make as well, like not just starting every film with a drone shot, for example. Sometimes it'll be the party kicking off and just get that hook, that hook for the beginning of the film. And that hook, again, we've been doing this for years for our couples. Like, it weren't ever a hook for social media. It was always to get the couples feeling something, and that now everything that we've been doing for years has just transpired into the social media side of things. So it's just what we've always been doing, but on a different platform, I guess. So
what you've always done is just so happens to be a perfect fit for how social media is operating at the moment and the kind of content it wants and needs. Because you start with I'd call it like a cold open quite often in your highlight films, don't you? Like a section from maybe the band performing or something like that. That's quite a repeating theme, isn't it? Especially like music performances. Is that that's quite intentional? That's, you want a hook to grab people.
I think for me, my favourite part of the day, or one of my favourite parts of the day certainly, is the dancing scenes. Like, I really enjoy that. It's almost like the crescendo of the day, isn't it? I know like the moment they get married is the actual crescendo, but it's almost like the crescendo of the whole day and the end of the film. And it's just like, for me, I like to share a snippet of that at the beginning, just because it shows people what's to come, and then it brings you then back into the beginning of the day, for example. And I'm nowhere near good enough. I see some filmmakers that are making incredible edits, and when I watch the films, I'm like, that's so cool how they've like had 3 stories running at once and they've interlocked and they've edited it. But I'm not nowhere near as good of editor to be able to do that. And my brain won't allow it. Like, for me, I used to try and make films that way years and years ago, but I've always just stuck to like almost a bit of a chronological account, which some might think is like a bit boring and it's not that creative, but it's just how I edit. Like, I can't do any other than that, and I'm not going to try and do something that I can't do or that I don't want to do. So for me, it's just that perfect approach really to that.
It feels like the theme throughout the whole of your business and your work is very much a case of following what feels right for you, and for your couples as well. Like, your couples are very much put at the forefront of your thoughts, aren't they? And you're creating everything for them it just so happens that what your values and what you want to create for your couples just fits perfectly in these other elements, and it's just your socials are blown up not for you wanting to be an influencer or anything like that. It's just happy accident.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's really nice that people are seeing the videos, but at the same time, would I be happy just sharing them out and not so many people seeing them? Absolutely. Like it's not all about the views, and it's not all about the followers and things like that. It's nice, don't get me wrong, and I know we live in that world now and what have you, but it's not the be all and end all. It's not everything. It's just nice to be able to do that.
Well, Steph, mate, sorry for keeping that extra bit longer.
That's okay. The camera's flashing away on the last 4 minutes, so it's perfect timing.
Thank you so much for your time again and the extra time, and hope to catch you in person very soon, mate. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Coda Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and wouldn't mind helping us out, please consider leaving a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. We have many more conversations with inspiring filmmakers still to come, so make sure to subscribe to be notified when the next episode goes live.